Prepare to step into a world where imagination knows no bounds as we present Legends, Loot, and Lore. Join your hosts, Andrew and Joe, the dice-rolling dynamic duo who will guide you every step of the way into the realm of Dungeons & Dragons. From crafting narratives to character creation, this podcast is your gateway to becoming the hero of your own story. Whether you're a new adventurer or a seasoned traveler seeking new insights, Legends, Loot, and Lore has something for everyone. After the episode, visit our website at www.legendslootandlore.com for even more resources and exclusive content. And if you're as passionate about this adventure as we are, help support our quest at legendslootandlore.supercast.com. Embark on this odyssey with us and let the echoes of ancient tales guide you toward a destiny filled with limitless possibilities. Roll for initiative, because your adventure begins now.
Joining Legends, Loot, and Lore today is Aetsch Becker. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
We're very excited to have you here today. We're gonna talk all things D&D and we're gonna talk Doctor Who because we are both big fans of. I was gonna say for those that are watching some of this, you'll see the background. There's a big Doctor Who print. We have that as a lamp. We have a lamp with that print on it
That's a blanket.
Yeah, we have it as a lampshade in our Doctor Who room. But anyway, so for those listening, you're missing out. But so H is a D&D player, DM, aspiring author, and many other things. So I will leave the full introductions up to H, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm your typical 30-something neurodivergent queer nerd.
I love it.
I wouldn't say quintessential. I didn't grow up being a nerd. I was cut off from a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very sheltered in a way. I pretty much my entire life is Doctor Who, dreadlocks, and D&D.
There you go. That's
3Ds.
Perfect. That's fantastic. So you're also working on you've started creating some supplemental material for D&D as well. So on a personal level, I'm interested because I'm working on a homebrew campaign and I need some help with some NPCs. But tell us a little bit about that and what you're working on.
Well, right now I'm releasing one pack of NPCs a month on Patreon. With every Friday, there's a free release, one page, one character every Friday that kind of goes with the month's theme. And I really just came about because I have all these characters in my head. I'm a writer, I'm a DM. I just have so many characters in my head because I'm a people watcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't possibly use them all or remember them all. So I thought my girlfriend helped me with the idea, actually. And she helped me actually create this month's pack as well. I just decided to screw it. Somebody could probably use these. I mean, I am huge on world building and character creation, but another DM might be more focused toward combat or exploration of, places rather than people.
Right.
So I thought maybe some people could use some extra NPCs to throw in. The original idea was oops, improv. Oops, my players have gone somewhere I didn't plan on. I don't know who this character is. It's at this store or at this library or whatever. So here you go. Or they want to go check out a library. I have a book nerd in my group and he wants to go check out every bookstore and library. So I have to make sure there's a bookstore and a library pretty much everywhere there would be.
Right.
So it's designed to just grab and go, honestly.
That's awesome.
Or use it for world building.
Right. Absolutely. That's great. I mean, it's everybody I think has their own, to quote Liam Neeson, a particular set of skills, and it's, so some people are not good at creating those NPCs, and like you said, when it all depends on how you you run the game as a DM. If you've got them in the kind of the sandbox and let them go anywhere and everywhere they want, you've got to be prepared for them to go places where you're not expecting them to go. So having some NPCs available is super helpful. That's a great tool.
And not every DM is great at improv. I'm
Yeah.
terrible at improv. I'm over prepared to compensate for that, though.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And for our listeners, I will make sure we include the link to your Patreon in the show notes. So everybody go check that out for all of your NPC needs.
We are still new. We've only done 2 months so far, but every month I'll
Awesome.
be putting out a new pack.
Fantastic.
Also looking for artists who might want to join in on the project, because right now I'm using AI art, which is super, super controversial, but I'm very upfront about it. And it's just because I'm not an artist and I'm not actually selling the art. So
I will introduce you to, so a couple of episodes ago, my wife's cousin, Ryan Denora, who is he does all sorts of production work and things like that, but he's a big D&D player, and he does a lot of graphic design. He creates drawings for all the characters of the campaign he DMs and things like that. So
nice.
I'll send you his information, because he loves commissions and things like that. So
Absolutely.
so I'll send you his information.
Thank
But
you.
so tell me about this. So how did you first get started? Where did your journey begin with Dungeons and Dragons? What So you said you didn't necessarily grow up in that. So what initially caught your attention, and how did you get started with D&D?
Well, I had a little bit of passing interest as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
My brother played it with a couple of friends of his, but it was for the boys, which was less misogynistic than it sounds. It was more about my brother was made to take me everywhere, and this was the one place he didn't have to take me.
Got it.
But I had a passing interest. It just, my dad was really into fantasy books, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, because, well, the covers didn't look like they marketed to me. So it didn't catch my interest until I was in my adult years. And I moved down here to Texas about 7 years ago, and I had a couple of friends who played. One of them was playing 3.5 regularly with his family.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been playing and DMing since he was a kid, since the original D&D days. And I begged and begged and begged and begged and begged and begged and begged, because before I moved down here, somebody had started a BTM and we were going to run that. I made the character. I did a graphical layout of her apartment. I went all out, and we never started the campaign. Then I moved down here, and my roommates are like, let's do a roommate Pathfinder game. I'm like, cool. I make a character. We do 1.5 sessions, and it never continued again. So I begged my friend, and he made me beg because he wanted to make sure that I was committed to it.
So it sounds
And
like
then eventually he ran me through a one-on-one.
Yeah.
What's up?
I said through all that, it sounds like you were the only committed one to it.
It's how it felt. But then he ran me through a one-on-one campaign with the DMPC to kind of teach me the ropes. And then we had another friend join, and then another friend join, and it became a group for about 2 or 3 years consistently. It was actually the group I started DMing with. But I knew from the beginning that I would eventually want to become a DM, because I am huge on games. I'm huge on game rules and understanding how games work. And so I was, a rule Nazi. It's what all my friends called me when we played games. And I was like, well, this seems like the perfect fit. I'm also a writer and a creator. So naturally, this just makes sense. And he's like, whoa, slow your roll. You're not ready for that yet. Learn the game. And I was like, you're right, though. You're right. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew, because I do that a lot. So, and then eventually, after 2 years of playing, I started writing my own campaign because I was inspired, and he was like, okay, let's try it. And we did.
Cool. Oh, that's really cool. So do you remember your first character that you created for D&D?
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I do. This was a port for the 3.5 game that he ran me through. It was a port from the Pathfinder character I had made, and I bit off more than I could chew. She was dual class and dual race.
Wow, that's
I made her, what did I make her? A changeling drow rogue witch.
Wow.
It was a bit much.
How do you keep
Then I
track
went
of
to a
all that?
druid.
Nice. Yeah, how do you keep track of I know a lot of people multi-class, but multi-race, multi-class all at the same time for your first character is
And porting from Pathfinder to 3.5, which is a huge difference in like skills and points and
yeah.
experience.
Oh,
It was a nightmare.
I can imagine. Who's your current character? So you went from that. Who's your current character? What are you playing now?
I have one druid of the stars
Mm-hmm.
who is the party weed and shroom supplier. She
Excellent.
has a bag of growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a water genasi swashbuckler rogue in a pirate campaign. And I have a druid of the land, I think, in another campaign.
Cool. Oh, nice. I think I'm what
She's heavily traumatized.
I'm currently playing a tiefling tiefling warlock, which is one I just
Ooh.
started playing, and I've got a mountain dwarf fighter that I try to I try to like pick and choose things that I haven't played before because I've never my first character was a human wizard, so I like the spellcaster. I started playing a bunch of uh, melee characters, and I was one of my favorites was a monk. I like playing the monk,
Mm.
um, but there's so many options, and it's just I don't know. Like I just like to try different combinations and
I
see what
keep wanting
happens.
to try new classes. There's so many I haven't tried yet, but I keep ending up with druid because I'm, one of the more experienced players at some of these tables, and oftentimes an add-in to the table, and what they need is utility. And druid honestly has the best utility and variety. They can be the
Absolutely.
tank, they can be the support, they can be DPS, they can be stealthy, they can be a healer. Like they're just so much better for when you're joining a group and they have a lot of roles that aren't being filled.
I think a lot of
So I end
parties,
up with a druid.
yeah, a lot of parties tend to forget to include like a druid type character. It's they all want to
Versatile.
yeah
Sure.
they all want to get in and fight, but they forget that you might need a healer or they're just they tend to I think a lot of people just tend to think of the battle part of D&D and not the rest of the campaign
Yeah. You
itself.
might need a mount to get somebody who's hurt out of there.
Right.
Druid works great for that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of good, like you said, a lot of good utility to a druid. So let me ask you this question. So you said you've been playing D&D for what, about 6 years? Is that
Yeah, give or take. About a year,
so?
but little less than a year after I moved here.
Got it. So out of all that playing that you've done, are there any so we've talked about some of your characters, your memorable characters. Are there any memorable moments that have that jump out to you in that time? What 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 jumps out to you that you remember playing?
There was this one campaign I was playing with my brother online. He was the DM. And I was playing a Kalashtar barbarian druid. And we were doing I think it was, I don't remember what the name of the campaign was, but it was like I think it was the Rise of Tiamat.
Okay.
We did like the Tyranny of Dragons, like that whole like trilogy. And at the final, when Tiamat was like trying to elevate out of the ground to manifest,
Mhm.
we were obviously fighting a bunch of minions and stuff, of course, because final fight, crazy stuff going on.
Sure.
I don't remember who it was, but one of our players, ingenious moment, popped up a dome. I think it might have been. I don't think it was Tiny Hut,
Mhm.
but I can't remember the name of the spell. But
Yeah.
popped up this dome above where she was trying to raise out to
Mhm.
just like put her in a timeout while we dealt with the minions, and it made the final fight so much easier.
That's amazing. I
So much
love that.
easier. Oh, it was ingenious. It was probably one of the first moments I saw that kind of out of the box thinking. I mean, there was always some when it came to like exploration and stealth and stuff like that, but that was like major. I was like, "Whoa, I can't believe that worked."
That's terrific. I love when spells like that. When you have the spell, you're like, I don't know how I'm going to use this.
How I'm going to use this, but I have it.
That's right. And then something like that happens, and you're like, thank God I had that spell.
Oh, it made the fight so much easier, and we all survived.
There you go. That's fantastic. I love it. There's so many. Again, it's the out of the box thinking. I love how D&D really develops that skill for people to really
absolutely
think creatively.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a couple episodes now. We talked about like D&D and therapy and education and how how people build these skills while playing D&D. So it's really fun to see those kind of moments when you do something that, especially when it surprises the DM, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't think about that."
Yeah. Oh, I have those moments in my campaign all the time. All the time. I had last week. I had a dungeon it's one of my proud dungeons, and it's supposed to change arena. It's like a duel thing, and it's supposed to change arena for every opponent on the party in the opposite of their favor. So like the rogue gets like no hiding places. It's just a gravel field, things like that. But only one of my players got to do this. Ended up beating the guy in the first like round because it's supposed to take the whole party like little by little, inching this guy down one at a time. They never got to see the arena change. He just pushed him in some lava. I was like, oh, cool. I'm so proud of you. And after session, I told him how it was supposed to work, and he was like, "Oh, that's so cool. I'm sorry." I'm like, "No, don't be sorry. I'm gonna wreck your shit next week. It's fine."
That's right.
And I did.
That's as a DM, you spend all that time building, creating, and setting something up, and then they just completely bypass the whole thing. You're like, "Oh, come on!"
But it's fine because it's not the last time I'm going to run that dungeon. It's not the last time I'm going to run this campaign. Last time I ran this with that original group, they ended up going through each and every player before the final one was able to defeat him. So they got to see it. It's interesting to watch the two different groups play the same campaign, though.
Sure, I can imagine. Some of the people in my group have played parts of different groups and have played the same campaigns, and it's always interesting to see how it plays out differently. So let me ask you this question. So thinking about so again, our podcast is we try to welcome new people into D&D and things like that. So let me ask you this question. So we talked about kind of your introduction into D&D as a player, and we've talked a little bit about how you've gone into being a DM, but what would you recommend for someone that maybe has been playing a little bit and they have that creative spirit, they really might be interested in becoming a DM and running a campaign on their own? What's some advice you would give to that person who now has a flavor for playing D&D, really likes it, and now kind of wants to take it to a different level and run their own campaign?
The first thing, this is not a reference book. This needs to be read. Actually read the book. A lot of people use it as a
master's guide, by the way. So that's
yes, the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yes.
Actually read it. It does help. I started out just using it as a reference, and I was missing so many things. I find it very difficult to read nonfiction, so I'm still working my way through it. But my first piece of advice, read that book. Second piece, get a group of trusted people that you know, like people that you trust, friends that want to play, maybe one person that has played or DM'd before and they know ahead of time that you're trying it out for the first time. I had a DM in my corner at my table who was there when I needed help. I also had my boyfriend who had DM'd before. He was kind of like my assistant DM. He was there to look up rules while I was navigating the table,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't have to worry about that. That really helped. As far as world, like if you're gonna homebrew,
Mm-hmm.
for the love of God, do your best to stay organized, because I lose notes that are for things that are I just write it on a piece of paper, and then like a week later I have to go through 15 pieces of paper and go, okay, this goes here, this goes here, and then I lose things. But really, honestly, just do it. You're gonna mess up the first few times. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make rulings that aren't popular. You're gonna make rulings that are against the rules.
Right.
It's gonna happen. Just as with any other mistake, just be like, okay, all right, now I've learned, and don't do it again, or do it again because it's your table, and you've
Right.
decided that rules as written wasn't working.
Right. So would you recommend?
Honestly, it's just about vaulting. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead, please.
It's just about stepping over that fence and just
Right.
doing it. Just letting the nerves, like acknowledging that you're nervous or scared, but then doing it anyway.
Right. Would you recommend, if somebody is going to DM, would you recommend them using one of the pre-built campaigns to start, or
For me, that depends on how your brain works.
uh-huh,
I tried to run a module. I tried to run two different modules. I tried to do Lost of Phandelver, and I tried to do Call of the Netherdeep.
right,
My brain cannot follow how those books are organized. It just doesn't. I missed a lot of information, and then I would have to go back and retcon things or find a way to rewrite it so I didn't have to retcon. And my brain didn't work with the way they're set up.
right.
So I only do homebrew. Um, but I mean, it really depends on how your brain works. If you try, I would ideally, yeah, you'd like to run a pre-written module first, and you kind of get an idea of how they run and how they progress and how leveling works and things like that. But sometimes it just doesn't work for your brain.
So let me ask you this question. This is what I'm currently thinking. So you're a big fan of Doctor Who, as am I. What how would a Doctor Who homebrew D&D campaign work? I mean, because you've got
I've
some
been pondering this for a while.
you've got some great enemies. You've got the Cybermen, you've got the Daleks, you've
I
got
do.
you've got the Master or Missy. You've got some great baddies to fight against. You
Not to mention all the companions that have just gone home.
Yeah, you've got that. Like I could see some of the concepts of like Spelljammer working, like the space travel and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, and you've got a TARDIS, so you've got a ship to travel in. So I mean, why not? Because I was just so the reason I was thinking this, because I just got an ad on Instagram for they're doing a Doctor Who Magic the Gathering card set, and
Hmm.
I'm like, why hasn't someone? Or maybe they have, maybe I just haven't seen it, but like I would love to see a Doctor Who themed D&D campaign.
I have looked on the internet for this, and well, actually, it was because I was creating that campaign that has the traumatized druid. That campaign has had two other characters from
Hmm.
me. One of them went to the dark side, and I lost control of her. And one of them was meant to be a short guest spot. Was a Kenku who only spoke in Doctor Who quotes. And when I was looking up things for this Kenku to build this Kenku, I found out that a lot of people don't want to use like the TARDIS overpowered, the Doctor severely overpowered. Um, but interestingly enough, I found out because of Roll20 and their little drop down box of all their games, I found out there actually is a Doctor Who TTRPG called Doctor Who Time and Space. I have yet to check it out. I have a friend who has the books, but I just haven't had time to read them.
Interesting.
But yeah, there's actually a TTRPG specifically for Doctor Who.
So I would love I could see like the Doctor has been captured or kidnapped, and see a bunch of the companions team up.
One shots I could easily see.
Yeah.
One shots I could easily see. A longer campaign might be difficult, and here's the number one reason why: time.
Yeah.
Time travel. The DM will go crazy. Because trying to record all, like, I have in my campaign now, I have a weird timey-wimey thing going on. They're from one plane, they're in another plane. Time doesn't work the same way in that other plane. Like, it works the same way, but like their calendar is different, their years are longer and things like that. So when they go back to their home plane, like, I have 3 separate calendars that I made for each of these places to keep track of where they're at and what time has passed in this other plane.
Oh my.
That gets really complicated. So that might be why people don't do it.
I was gonna say, yeah, depending on how in depth you get, yeah, it could get very complicated. I could imagine, but a one shot would be a lot of fun. I think that would be
So
interesting.
fun. Yeah.
I'll have to think about that. I might have to work on that now. And just one more
We have
thing
to
to add
collab.
to the list.
Right?
So you talk a lot about world building. So what is what's your process like for creating a new environment? Like, how do you start? What are some of the things that you need to consider when doing that? And kind of what's your process on doing that?
Well, when I say built, I mean they're in progress because it's never really done.
Right.
But I've built 3 worlds myself. One is for my magical realism genre book series that I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
One is for another book series I want to write, and which is more high fantasy. Well, more like high fantasy, low. I don't know. It's fantasy. And then I've got my D&D world, which I'm currently building, sort of loosely from the Forgotten Realms, but I want to make it my own. So I'm trying to change enough stuff. Um, Honestly, every single one has started differently. The one for my magical realism books started with the world as it was in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, so we're in this world, except there's also this other part that was hidden from the rest of the world, and so I only had to build out like half of that. I had to figure out what kind of magic system I was going to have. There are some great videos on YouTube on figuring out your hard or soft magic systems. I had to figure out, what kind of creatures or races that we didn't already know about were going to be in the world. And then figuring out like where they're from and do they have their own communities? Do they have, do they live in and amongst the humans? So that's where that one started. My second world started on a more physics kind of basis. I knew that I wanted sort of like George Lucas planet. It's very temperate zone for the majority of the planet, mostly forest. There is no water in the forest, but a river.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole concept. But it started with the planetary portion of it. I was like, okay, so if I want this to be temperate, how would that work? And I actually had a really long conversation with a friend of mine who's a science nerd. And we actually discussed like how that could actually exist in the universe. So I have like a giant planet and like 2 smaller like white dwarf suns that orbit like directly opposed to one another to
Okay.
make this
Cool.
happen. And then from there it went into the cultures and things like that, like what exists within that temperate forest, what exists on the poles, etc. This D&D world started with D&D. Like, it started with the Forgotten Realms, and I was like, okay, but I don't want to keep using their lore. But I'm so lore centric that I can't use a setting that has lore and not use the lore. So I was like, I just need to make my own. And it started, where did that one actually start? Started with Sigil. My campaign, when I originally wrote it, used the Forgotten Realms, and Sigil is a big, big part of it. It's their sort of hub for the main of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I changed it and I made Nexus, similar to Sigil, but it's very different in a lot of ways. And then I'm all over the place when it comes to world building. Like, once I get started,
Right.
it's all over the place. I've got, this, but the cultures are okay. In D&D, one of the biggest things you have to decide is like, are your cultures separate by race or are they separate by culture?
Mhm.
Because like Forgotten Realms, like the Drow live underground, and like the orcs and the half orcs and everything are like over here, and the elves have their own communities, and like some of them are mixed, but for the majority of the time, they're from their own race.
Right.
But like they might have a world where where they're more mixed than that. What point in the world's development are we spotlighting here? Are we spotlighting when they're brand new on this planet, or after they've mixed and mingled for 500 to 5,000 years?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I just go from there. Like, I'm like, okay, I need a faction. All right, let's make a faction. Oh, crap. This player wants to be from this. It wants to be this thing. I haven't decided what that area of the world is yet. So let's figure this out. I build a lot as I go. But one of the other questions you had sent me that actually kind of lends into this was about resources. And I'm sure we'll get back to that later. But one of the resources I use that really helped me propel the direction of my world building was Asgard's map. I had this like random map, and then I was just like, okay, let me be inspired by this map and figure out what's going where, and that helped a lot. Because
Nice.
there's so many details within it. Like you click on a city and you can put in there the number, like you've got populations, you've got the square mileage, you've got the, cultures and the religions. The mapping has all of that in there, and
Oh,
you can
really?
edit all of it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And where do
That's
you find
completely free. I Google Asgars, GAAR apostrophe S.
that? Okay. Excellent. I
Yeah.
can look it up, and I'll also put it in the show notes for everyone else, so they can find that too. Yeah. So so let's dive into that. Let's talk about what other resources are there that you have used, and for other people who are considering building their kind of their home brews, their own worlds, etc.
Mm-hmm. Asgars is a big one. Off of Asgars, there is, if you click on a city within Asgars, you can actually, there's an icon where you can click on a map. It'll take you to another site, the name of which I forget at the moment, that will let you build the city map. And it will already have it built to match your map,
Oh, wow.
like that area where that city is on the big map. So it'll have like, you can adjust the walls and stuff though. You can adjust everything. It's a little complicated, but totally doable and totally free. And then through Asgars as well, within the city thing, you can actually create a little coat of arms through another website. I think it's called Armonia,
Mm-hmm.
and it will link to the map and it'll show the coat of arms for that city. It's really cool.
Oh, wow.
Um,
That is really cool.
I use D100 lists a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're all over Reddit and stuff, but there's an actual website. I may have to look that up for you, but I just Googled D100 lists and it comes up. Boop boop boop. D&D Speak. D&D Speak D100 list. I use those a lot. If I don't, I generally don't copy directly from it because I am wanting to publish one day, but
Right.
I do use it for inspiration for like trinkets, books. I mean, they have everything on there. There's so many lists on there for like banned wizard tomes, library books,
Oh, my.
um, cursed trinkets, friggin' like things you would find in a dragon horde. It's just there's so many lists on there. It's invaluable. What
That's
else do I
great.
use?
That's super useful.
I lost all my bookmarks on an old computer, so I have to like
Oh,
find
no.
them all again. But those are the ones I've been using regularly
I'm the worst. I
lately.
keep so many tabs open on my browser.
So you should
I
1,
never
2,
I never
3, 4,
bookmark
5,
anything.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm at 13 right now.
Excellent. Excellent. I can't even read my tabs. It's just like the little icons, like the little.
Yeah.
That's all that I have. There's too many
It's your
tabs.
brain.
That's right. I'm very visual, so it's an easy way to remember what's what. So you
What
mentioned
else
a
do I use?
little bit about.
Oh, and home brewery. Oh my God, I write my campaigns on home brewery.
Okay.
Homebrewery.naturalcrit.com or dot something. But basically, I can put all of my campaign stuff in there like it's a campaign book.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm ready for session, I can just go to that section and follow it.
Oh, cool. Oh, very nice.
for
That's
the
awesome.
visual people, because like I'm a visual person. I got to
Yeah.
see it like it's official.
I'm the same. I'm the same way. Like I have to. I've got to be able to see it to put it all together.
No.
So tell me this. You
Oh,
yes. Oh, there's more. Oh, but wait, there's more.
the biggest one is Google. I am, all of my notes are on Google Drive. I have folders for each of my PCs. I have folders for each city. And then under the city, I have folders for the factions or the neighborhoods, the districts, important NPCs. And it's super organized. So it's really easy to find. And you can share the file with somebody. Like if you need to, if you got somebody that's helping you build a particular city out for their backstory or whatever. Um, that is the only way I've been able to keep track of everything. Yes, I can have everything on my externals or on the computer, but those do
Sure.
crash.
Right.
Um, Google Drive, I can't tell you how many times I've been out of the house, not near my computer, and somebody's been like asking me a question about my world building, and I can go on my phone and just go Google Drive and just here.
There it is.
So that one is my absolute number one recommended. People ask all the time how you back up your notes. How do you keep track of your notes? That's how. It's Google. I use the sheets. I use the drives. I use the folders. Everything.
It's a super useful tool.
Sorry.
Everything's cloud based. It's
hmm
they've got Google Docs, Google Sheets. Like you said, the whole file
hmm
structure. So it's a great.
And if you run out of room, got another email address, right?
Or you can. I mean, if you really want to pay for it, you could always. I mean, they're happy to sell you
Yeah.
more storage space if you ever needed it. So tell me this. So you mentioned briefly that you are also a writer and you're writing something. So tell us a little bit about what you're writing. Tell us how has D&D influenced that writing, and how has your writing influenced what you do on the D&D side?
So I've been writing for most of my life here and there. Just random stuff, mostly poetry in high school. I started writing a book when I was in college. I abandoned that for 10 years because somebody convinced me I was never going to be good at it. Somebody who was important to me. And eventually I got into a relationship with somebody who was like, you just need to figure out what you want to do. Like, yeah, you have all these things you like, but you need to make a decision, choose one and go with it. And I was like, okay, writing, I'm going to go with that.
All right.
5 years later, I'm still writing the same damn book. But essentially, I'm writing a series that focuses on a few very important key themes.
Mhm.
One is that we are all the villain in someone's story, and we are all the heroes in our own. Like it just happens. And so I'm taking this concept of the duality of evil and good, and I'm applying it to this sort of like um, our world. Like the mythos kind have been hiding away for all this time because it's not safe with humans the way they are. And I mean, there's biblical, like I use the flood. I just kind of rewrite it a little bit, like I use a lot of mythology from a lot of different things.
Mhm.
Because in my world, all of these things that we thought exist, like these fantastic creatures that we know of, did exist at one point, and they still do in my world. So,
Right.
but there's this like sort of the mythos kind of decided humans have destroyed the earth for too long, and they're taking it back over. Lord of the Rings is the beginning of the Age of Man. This is the beginning of the end of the Age of Man. And there's two factions that are very much in disagreement about
Mhm.
how to go about taking over the planet. One wants to eradicate the humans, and one is like, we can find an alternative that doesn't eradicate an entire species and genocide and all that.
Right.
But there's a lot of moral questions on both sides, and so I'm trying to tell the stories separately
Mhm.
and let the readers decide who the antagonists and protagonists are, hopefully to spark that sort of literary discussion.
Right.
um yeah, so that's the series I'm primarily working on, which has a lot more beyond those are just the first few books, but we'll see. How has it inspired my D&D? I mean, it's that and my love for rules of board games is what created my obsession with D&D, to be honest. Being able to put the two together is just perfect for me. And then D&D, honestly, the reason I haven't finished those books yet is because once I started DMing, I started realizing why I'm weak on supposed villains or antagonists. It's because I always want to be on the good guy side, and I'm, too nice of a person, and all this happy-go-lucky shit that, like, I wasn't writing good antagonists. I wasn't writing good bad boys. I wasn't writing good morally questionable people, because I just don't expose myself to those kind of people because I don't like that energy.
Right.
But playing D&D, and more importantly, running D&D, where I have to make players feel a certain way in certain situations to get the story going, it has really helped my perspective on writing villains, or I'll say baddies for a lesser version.
Right.
Um, and honestly, I don't know if I would have elevated my writing if it weren't for D&D.
Interesting. That's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, that's. I think a lot of people when they play D&D can potentially play somebody that is kind of antithetical to who they are as a person. So it's probably really good if you want to play or learn how to write a an antagonist or a villain
Or a perspective that you are not of.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a great way to develop a different perspective, because we've had some in campaigns, we've had like chaotic evil people that are just that's nowhere near who they are, but it's an interesting way to play, because you get to you really have to change your whole mindset as far as that's concerned, because it's just not
Yeah.
it's not who most of us are. That's great.
Yeah. Actually, my first character, my DM, he's like, play somebody that's closer to what you are. He said,
Yeah.
knowing you, your natural alignment is probably neutral good. And he said, play neutral good for a little while. Get used to the game playing as you are. Now, this is the kind of person that he just plays himself, but in a D&D setting, and he's perfectly fine with that, which rubs me the wrong way sometimes, but it's fine. But the but then once I started branching out and trying to play something just slightly different than me, like I played somebody who was an avid drinker. I haven't drank now in like 6 years. I just don't like it. But I played an avid drinker. I'm like, oh, yep, she's swigging from her thing. She's swigging from her thing. She had a never-ending bottle, like an ale skin.
Oh, nice.
Ever-filling ale skin. She's just constantly drinking it. I don't know. After playing so many characters, being able to expand beyond your own personality, it really does expand the perspective with which we understand the world.
It certainly does. I think
helps me in my day-to-day life dealing with people.
Right. I was just going to say, I think there's a lot of people out there that could benefit from getting a perspective other than their own.
Absolutely. Most people, actually pretty much everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's the adage, unless you walk a mile in someone's shoes, you have no idea what they are going through. So
Yep.
that's
So be kind.
Yes.
Above all, be kind. There's my Doctor Who quote of the day.
That's right. So tell me more. So let's go back to the NPCs. What are some of the NPCs that you've created? So I know it's only been 2 months. You said because you've only had the Patreon up for 2 months. But so give us an idea as to what are some of the NPCs you've created, and how people could use them in their campaigns.
So last month I did the Lazy Turtle Tavern pack, and essentially each pack comes with 5 to 10 NPCs I didn't want to limit myself on an exact number because some of them might not need that many or some might need more. I think with the Tavern Pack, there were 7 in the original pack. So that pack came with a bartender or a proprietor, a barmaid, I think, a cook. God, now I'm forgetting because I'm working on the next pack. I think it came with 3 frequent patrons and a bard. That was the other one, a bard. And so like each page, now there's 2 tiers. The commoner tier is the $5 a month. So that one comes with like a half page for each character, which is like a little paragraph about them. There's like at the top, I've got quick facts and what they have on their person as far as like lootable items. And then I have a traits and motivations right underneath that. What are their main personality traits and what are their main motivations? A small blurb, and then a quick image for just reference purposes, and then which stat block to use and what changes to make to it, a quote from the character, and I think that's it for the commoner package. But then the adventurer tier gets a full page and it gets more blurb. You get a box with related NPCs. It'll have like the name, the role in their life or the relation to them, and then like a quick 1-line blurb about like the situation or their relationship. You get a blurb about their residence, where they live, and any items they may have that's lootable there, and a quest hook or 2 for each character. And then the adventure tier also gets a page about the actual location. So they got a page about the tavern with a couple of quest hooks for the tavern itself. And then each week there's a free NPC that goes out that goes with the pack that everybody has access to, just to give somebody a. So it's like it's a whole tavern there ready to go, and you can add or take out whatever you like. Like one of the frequent patrons in that one is a Thieves Guild member, and so like he really likes this tavern, so he acts as security for the tavern. But he also uses it as a recruiting ground. If he sees somebody stealing for somebody else and they're doing it well enough, he will recruit them to the Thieves Guild.
Very nice.
So.
That's
And then,
great.
of course, there's like, the bartender's in love with the other one, but he hasn't told her, and like, little drama stuff in there too.
That's great. I love the kind of the richness to the background of the environment. That's really great. It's more so than what you'd get from you having to come up with that stuff, on the fly. So that's super helpful for those that might not have that kind of creative mindset to.
The biggest trick is trying to balance out giving the DM enough that they don't have to do a bunch of work, but also leaving enough vagueness so that they can add and change as they like. Walking that line, that's the hard part.
Oh, for sure. So can you give us a glimpse into what the next NPC pack is going to be?
Well, this month was a monster pack, something we tried a little different because my girlfriend's really into monster stuff and she wanted to help me. So I let her take the lead on that. So it's a monster pack. It's got like a whole new, it's got some new mechanics with it. It's like the realm of dreams has been twisted and corrupted, and here's how and why. I think the next one after that is a library. We got the Spring Solace Library coming out in November.
Nice.
Which is really interesting. I've got a couple favorites in that pack. One of them in particular is a child prodigy in the realm of languages and is trying to invent sign language.
Very cool.
And then after that, I've got a whole list right here in front of me. Like it's on a dry erase board. It's a long list. I don't know that I'm going to be doing themed packs for months other than this Halloween one I did this month, just because it's a lot of pressure. But I might do something for Christmas. I don't know. Or for like winter solstice idea, maybe a festival pack. I don't know. I haven't figured that one out yet.
Nice. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I know like I said, I'm in the midst of building my campaign, and I may. Do you take commissions? Let me ask you that question.
I haven't thought about that yet, but I suppose that something could definitely be worked out. Yeah.
Okay, I will keep that in mind.
There was one thing I did want to work up to is I got a hair up my ass one day and I was like, I wonder. And I went over to Fiverr and I was like, world building. And wouldn't you know, there are people on Fiverr who actually build worlds for people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, one day maybe that'll be me, but I don't know because I still want to do my novels and I still want to
Sure.
DM. So I don't know if I have time for all that, but
Right.
something to consider.
Yeah. You've already got a lot on your plate. So that's, I don't
I do my best when I've got a lot on my plate.
Oh, well, there you go. Then take on more. Why not?
That's the neurodivergency.
I'm the same.
When I've got less to do, I get lazy.
Yeah. I can completely relate to that. Let me think of what else. Let's diverge, and let's talk all things Doctor Who for a second. So have you watched the latest trailers for the anniversary special? What's your thought? What's your thought? Tell me.
First of all, I love NPH, and I am so glad that he was able to be added to the Doctor Who universe.
Yes.
And I think now, mind you, you're gonna hate me for this, but I have not watched Classic Who yet. I started with the Ninth Doctor, and I keep wanting to go back to Old Who, but like, it's such bad TV that like I need somebody to do it with me, and I haven't found that person yet.
Yeah.
But the part where she's like, where Donna was like, the TARDIS ran away, something so bad the TARDIS ran away, and it's like in the trailer, it's such a like moment. Like you don't even have the context of the episode yet, and it's just like, but then I'm like, the TARDIS has run away a few times though. The TARDIS ran to the end of time to try and get away from Jack.
Mm-hmm.
But like, NPH looks scary as a toy maker. Like he really does. Like, this is going to be good. This is going to be really good. And I want to know how Donna how does she not get fried when she remembers? That's the biggest question. That's the biggest question I have right now.
I know. There are a lot of questions, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the next Doctor coming up. So,
oh, Shruti Gatwa, I can't wait. Have you watched Sex Education on Netflix?
Yes, I have. I'm a huge fan. So I am. And it was funny. We literally just watched Barbie the other night, and
I haven't seen it yet.
I had no idea he was in it. He's
he is? Is
he's
he one of the Kens?
Yes.
Oh my god! Now I have more reason to watch it.
I know. I was like, oh my god. I'm so like I am over the moon that David Tennant's coming back for even a little bit. Like I'm just so.
You know, I have a theory about that too.
Do tell.
I think the face returned because Donna's in trouble. Now I don't know, like I haven't figured out the specifics around like why that might be or how he might have the doctor might have known, but I just got this feeling that he revisits that face because Donna's in trouble.
Interesting. We will find out soon, I hope.
I can't believe we don't have a date yet. They're like November. That's next month. Where's the date?
Right? It's a lot, but I'm so thrilled. Like,
and it's on Disney Plus now, so
yes,
or will be.
Yes, to have like I'm just
how much.
I mean, Shruti's going to not. Well, I mean, his episodes aren't going to be until 2020,
the New Year or Christmas or something. Yeah.
So we're gonna have to wait even longer for that. So there's just so much going on. I was so bummed. We were supposed to we're going to New York Comic Con next week. We're going to New York Comic Con next week. Jodie Whittaker was supposed to be there. There was going to be a team up photo of her and David Tennant, and I was so excited to get to meet her, and then she had to bail for some reason. I don't know if it was a filming conflict or what it was, but she wasn't able to come. So we've met we met
Bummer.
David Tennant. We've met Matt Smith, John Barrowman, who was
Mm,
he is a sweetheart. We had we had a cat. That's name was Captain Jack Harkness. That was the cat's name. I mean Jack for short, but his
adorable. Yeah, of course.
name was Captain Jack Harkness, and um, I know. I'm so thrilled to finally get some Doctor Who back. I was a little disappointed with some of the stuff when from Jodie Whittaker, but not because of Jodie Whittaker. I thought
Wasn't her fault.
I thought she was a good doctor. I thought the writing was really weak and did not do her justice. I feel like some of the storylines I thought were a little heavy handed, and it was just it was not up to what I was used to for Doctor Who.
Yeah, and a lot of people, the entire fandom was completely split almost down the middle when it came to her tenure. And again, I don't think it's her fault. I don't even think the writing was really that bad. It just wasn't right for her.
Yeah.
Like for her as an actress, like the writing and her acting, it just didn't jive well, I think. I still enjoyed the seasons because it's Doctor Who, and like, can I really do better than that? Like, but like I still enjoyed them. But yeah, I just don't think it meshed real well with her, which is a real bummer because I know her and Chris Chibnall really kind of were like close on that, and I don't know. I don't think she got a fair shake either way.
I thought her last season was really good. What was I can't remember what it was
With
called.
Timeless Child.
Yeah, it was just that part I thought was really good. It was like a short. It was almost more like a mini series.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like the miniseries. Yeah,
Yes, that
I think that was a really really good arc. I
yeah,
enjoyed that a lot.
same. That I thought was much better than the
I gotta
previous.
rewatch it again actually.
Yeah, I'm so
But
excited for more
and
Who's.
then I'm just really excited to have RTD back. Like when they announced that, it was the morning of my birthday, so it felt like a birthday present. Like RTD is coming back, and I'm like, no way! But he's also promised that like we're not going to have these long breaks from the show anymore.
Right.
He's talked about doing spin-offs, like Marvel style spin-offs, which I am super excited about, and I think more franchises should be doing. Like, because there's so many shows and fandoms where I want to see the ancillary character story. I want to
Oh,
see
for
what
sure.
led them to this main story. Like this is gonna sound really dumb, but Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I want Jeffrey's story. I want Jeffrey the butler's story. I want to know how he came to be in their service and like what he did in his youth. Like I want his story. And I think a lot of shows are starting to pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
But RTD is definitely like on top of that shit. 'Cause he's talking about like a whole unit series, and I'm like, yes, please give me more. I wanted more Class. I wanted more Torchwood. I wanted more
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. There's just I really hope I would love for an expanded Doctor Who universe of just more content. Like I'm not a fan of all of it. I mean, I'm a big Star Trek fan, big Star Wars fan. I love the fact that Disney has expanded on. It's not just the movies; they tell a lot of other stories, and I love a lot of those other stories almost better than the main ones because you really get to know a particular character and you really kind of like you said you get into the
Get
backstory.
more lore. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that for
Yeah,
me is just
the reason I'm rewatching Star Wars is because I hadn't watched Clone Wars or Rebels or Bad Batch, and I got to Ahsoka, and I'm like, okay, I'm missing stuff. And then I watched them all, and I was like, whoa, I had no idea how much I was missing in terms of lore. Like, there's so
yes,
much Star Wars lore within those 3 animated shows, so much that fills in so many blanks
yes.
that I thought were plot holes or things that would be explained later, and turns out they were already explained. I just didn't watch it.
That was one of the best things my co-host did for us was before Ahsoka came on, he's like, we're gonna watch Rebels. He's like, you will thank me when Ahsoka comes out. And it was so true. I'm like, oh my god! Now it's like this all makes sense. Like I get why you had us watch
Yeah.
that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because like I had watched the first couple episodes of Ahsoka, and I haven't finished Ahsoka yet because I went back. But there was that one part, like it was the whole like Sabine and like Ezra, and I'm like, who the fuck is this Ezra guy? Like, and then I
Yes.
went back and I watched, and then when it all clicked in my head, the whales, the Ezra, the Thrawn, like it all clicked. I cried when it all clicked for me. And then like I went and watched Rogue One again last night, and I was like, holy shit. I had like there was no impact for me watching the movie the first time when it came to Saw Gerrera's end. Okay, no impact whatsoever. I had no idea who the character was.
Right.
Watching it the second time though, holy crap. I was like, wow, he's seen and been through so much and this is how he ends like
Right.
So, I mean like oh man, I'm so glad I went back and rewatched. But that's why I like these ancillary shows because it's an opportunity where you don't have to focus on just the immediate storyline. You can fill in some of that world building, some of that lore. And I do the same thing in my D&D campaigns. Like
Mm-hmm.
when they have moments where they're just kind of fucking around or this and that, or somebody hears one of the NPCs says something and then I go, oh hey, you two actually grew up here, so why you actually know X, Y, and Z, and then let them play through it. So like there's or like side quests and stuff to help fill in some of the lore, get them to know this area that they're supposedly from but they don't actually know as players.
Like I would
Bring that
love a
full circle.
movie. I'd love the backstory of like Strahd. Like I would love to know like how he became like who he is today. Like that's just like the kind of stuff like I'd love some of that.
Yeah.
But maybe one day we'll get that in D and
And
D.
Elminster growing up,
Uh huh. There's so
like the
much.
kid of kid as Elminster, like oh that would be so interesting.
There's just a tremendous amount of backstory and lore that I would love for some of those D&D characters. Like I would love to just
Yeah,
I don't know. You could there's so much you could go into, but
that's exactly why I plan in my series to like I plan on exploring those in novellas.
mm-hmm.
Like um one of uh one of one of my main characters, her parents die pretty early into the story. um but there's an entire novella that I have planned that is like how they met and how they ended up in the situation that they ended up in. Because it does matter to the story for people who care about the entire story.
Right.
Now, it's not going to matter to the passing fan, but to the fans that are really, really into it, can be really helpful
Oh, most
and
definitely.
fun.
Most definitely. Yeah, I talked to I interviewed somebody else who's a fantasy writer, and she had produced a novella that I read. It's out on Amazon, and I was like, what happens to these characters? And she's like, well, they don't show up again until like book 2 or 3. And she's like, I haven't even published book 1 yet. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I gotta wait to book 2 and 3 to find out what
Well,
happens
it's
to
kind of like it's like my author website.
uh-huh.
My author website has this short story serial that I started doing. I kind of haven't done it in a while because I backed myself into a corner. I haven't figured it out yet, but it's essentially 8 journal entries of this girl who is living in the world in what it becomes 5 years after the events of my first book that I'm still working on. It was meant I started doing this as a way to like garner interest in it because
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to build a following and you have nothing published, you can't publish what you're writing because somebody won't publish it then, or like you're going to
Right.
change it and all this other stuff. So I didn't know what to like put out there for people to follow. So I was like, let me try these little serials. So it's this journal entry thing of her living in this post-apocalyptic fantasy Earth in like 2025, which we're getting really close to. Um,
Yes.
but it's like 5 years after the event, so it kind of alludes to how the world becomes but not how it becomes that way. And I
Interesting.
think that can be done. I just hope I can do that well.
I have faith. I have faith in you that you will. All right. Well, I know we're running out of time here. Thank you, H. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Do you have any final parting words for people interested in Dungeons and Dragons, people thinking about DMing? What are your final thoughts for our listeners today?
Just do it. You're not going to regret it. Whether you're playing, DMing, world building, writing, it's such a great outlet for so many things, for anger, for love, for compassion, for getting a new perspective, for creativity, for exploring and inventiveness, and even exploring a different part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just, oh God, I cannot, like, I could go on for days about the benefits of playing D&D. But at any angle you want to approach it, just do it. That's my biggest advice. Stop doing the, well, I would if, or there's a way to find players. As you know, there's online, there's, if you don't have a computer, there's text-based stuff. Like, there's always a way. Or, you know, just order the DMG and just put a group together. Be like, we're playing. If you don't like it, I'll get somebody new, but we're playing.
That's right. Absolutely. Great advice. Again, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'll make sure we put all the links to your Patreon, your writing, everything. We'll get it in the show notes so everybody can link to that and find out more. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Legends, Loot, and Lore. We hope you've enjoyed immersing yourself in the realms of legends, uncovering hidden loot, and delving into captivating lore. But the journey doesn't end here. For exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and access to our community, visit legendslootandlore.supercast.com. There you'll be able to support the podcast, where you can join our Discord server for lively discussions and subscriber-only content, and connect with fellow enthusiasts. Stay connected with us on Instagram and Facebook at Legends, Loot, and Lore to continue on the quest. By following our social media channels, you'll be the first to know about upcoming episodes, bonus content, and exciting announcements. If you've enjoyed your time with us, we kindly ask you to rate and subscribe to this podcast. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue producing captivating episodes and embarking on new quests. Thank you for being a part of our journey. We're thrilled to have you by our side as we unravel the legends, uncover the loot, and delve deeper into the lore. Until next time.